The story began in the year 1975. The two young friends were staring at a magazine cover. The first commercially successful personal computer in the history of mankind, named MIT's Altair 8800, which was blue, boxy, and full of possibility, had just appeared in Popular Electronics for sales. Bill Gates and Paul Allen saw not only a kit computer in Altair 8800, rather they visualized a door into the future. They wrote a version of BASIC for Altair, the first commercially used personal computer. Very soon they had their first customer in Albuquerque City in Mexico. The company they created, Microsoft, was tiny, but the instinct was already there. Take a new platform, make it usable, and turn it into a habit. From there the story is a climb, built on tools. Microsoft learned that power becomes mainstream when it feels familiar. DOS gave the first wave of personal computers a common language. Windows added icons and a mouse, so officers could click their way through work instead of memorizing commands. Office put words, numbers, and slides into a single rhythm. The pattern repeated: build the software that turns new hardware into something ordinary people can trust. By the time the internet and graphics and laptops took over, Microsoft had become the default desk in the world's digital office. Scale can make a company slow. In the early 2010s, Microsoft looked heavy-footed next to newer names. Then, in 2014, Satya Nadella became CEO and reframed the company in a single sentence: mobile first, cloud first, which really meant meet people wherever they are and bring Microsoft with you. He opened doors that had been shut, put Office on competing phones, embraced open source more than anyone expected, and pointed the company toward Azure, a cloud that could rent the world its computing power by the minute. The tone changed: less fortress, more platform; less Windows everywhere, more Microsoft everywhere. The company also learned to buy with purpose. In 2016, it brought LinkedIn into the family, not as a trophy but as a professional network that could flow into Outlook, Dynamics, and advertising. In 2018, Microsoft bought GitHub, a home for code and the developers who write it, and promised to keep it open while weaving it into the toolchain. Each deal edged Microsoft closer to where work actually happens, in resumes and recruiters, in issue tracker and pull requests. The biggest swing came in games. In October 2023, Microsoft closed its acquisition of Activision Blizzard, bringing storied studios into the Xbox and PC orbit and signaling that subscription libraries and cloud streaming would shape the next decade of play. The message was simple: entertainment is software now, and Microsoft intends to be a studio, a storefront, and a service at the same time. Money is not the whole story, but it keeps score. In fiscal 2024, Microsoft delivered over $245 billion in revenue and over $109 billion in operating income, record results that reflected the weight of the cloud and a renaissance in enterprise software. When you rent servers instead of selling boxes, growth looks different, steadier, more layered, and tied to how deeply customers rebuild their work around your stack. Then came the chapter with letters instead of numbers. It was artificial intelligence. For years, Microsoft had funded research and shipped little bits of intelligence into everyday products. Suddenly the moment arrived when those pieces could be stitched into something people could feel. The partnership with OpenAI, expanded in 2023 as a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar commitment, gave Microsoft first-class access to frontier models and a story to tell: Copilot. You would not search or format or summarize alone. You would ask a helper baked into Word, Excel, Outlook, Windows, GitHub, and Azure itself. The old Microsoft was a suite of tools, but the new Microsoft wanted to be a co-worker sitting in those tools. If you listen closely, you can hear the strategy running under every scene like a bass line. Microsoft meets inflection points early enough to matter: PCs in the 80s and 90s, the commercial cloud in the 2010s, generative AI in the 2020s, and then builds the scaffolding around them: developer platforms, enterprise contracts, security, compliance, and distribution. It prefers to be the fabric rather than the flare, infrastructure that disappears into the background while businesses run on it. It buys where it needs adjacency, LinkedIn for identity and reach, GitHub for developers, Activision for content, and partners where speed and research matter more than control, OpenAI for models. It keeps one foot in the consumer world, Xbox, Surface, Windows, so that the brand lives in homes while the business hums in data centers. You can read a sort without breaking the flow because it shows up as characters in the plot. The strengths are scale, trust, and habit. Microsoft sits in the Workday, Mail, Meetings, Docs, Code, and in the server room, Azure, databases, security, and now in the creative loop with Copilot. Its distribution is unmatched. If you already have Microsoft 365, a new feature can land on 1 billion desks overnight. Its balance sheet lets it invest patiently and make large, complementary acquisitions when needed. The weaknesses are the predictable ones for a giant: complexity that can tire users and administrators, a brand that still fights old Microsoft perceptions, and products that sometimes feel safer than delightful. Pricing and bundles can confuse, and the size that makes the company steady can also make it slow. Opportunities stretch as far as the cloud. Every industry is rewriting software with artificial intelligence at the center. Copilot can become a universal front door to work if it stays helpful and secure. Azure can be the neutral ground where many models live. OpenAI's today, others tomorrow. So customers pick the brain they need while staying in Microsoft's house. Security can grow from feature to franchise as threats multiply and companies want a single vendor to watch the walls. Even hardware has new chances if lightweight AI devices find a place beside phones and laptops. The threats are as broad as the opportunity: rivals with brilliant AI or better consumer pull, regulators who examine bundles, defaults, and data, customers who mix and match to avoid lock-in, and the risk that hype outruns practicality, leaving enterprises to sour on promises if early AI projects don't pay back. Challenges make the story human. Shipping artificial intelligence at enterprise scale means promising accuracy, privacy, and compliance on top of cleverness, and keeping those promises in dozens of languages and legal systems. Running a two-sided life, consumer joy and enterprise reliability, means your coolest demo must still pass an audit. Competing in games at global scale brings cultural and legal complexity far beyond code. And leading the cloud in a world worried about energy use and supply chains means you can't just sell capacity. You have to explain how that capacity fits inside a planet's limits. Numbers give us a few anchors to hold. Microsoft started in 1975 with BASIC in Albuquerque. Satya Nadella took the helm in 2014. LinkedIn joined in 2016 for $26.2 billion, GitHub in 2018 for $7.5 billion, and Activision Blizzard closed in October 2023 after more than a year of scrutiny. In fiscal 2024, revenue passed $245 billion. In 2023, Microsoft deepened its OpenAI partnership, and in the years since, Copilot has become the word the company uses when it wants to tell you that work will feel lighter. Each of those dots is a mile marker that tells you how the company moved from selling boxes to renting brains. The lessons in the story are plain enough to copy. Meet platforms where they are going, not where they are. Microsoft didn't invent the PC or the cloud or today's AI models, but it built the roads and rest stops that turned them into economies. Keep developers close and happy. They are your distribution. GitHub's community and Azure's tool chains make Microsoft sticky not because of contracts but because builders feel at home. Blend consumer and enterprise just enough. Xbox and Windows make the brand familiar so that IT decisions feel less risky. Office and Azure make procurement easy so that creativity doesn't stall. Use partnership as leverage, not as surrender. OpenAI gave Microsoft speed, and Microsoft gave OpenAI scale. And remember that reputation can be rewritten. The company that once said, "Embrace and extend," now wins because it genuinely integrates and supports, even across ecosystems it does not own. There is a softer lesson, too. Microsoft learned to change its tone. The old posture, hard elbows, platform as fortress, gave way to a quieter confidence. Ship the SDK, publish the roadmap, show up where the community is. The developer conference keynotes now feature demos that are less about dominance and more about usefulness. Even the name, Copilot, is a choice about tone. It says, "You are the pilot. We're here to help." That matters when software is no longer just a program but a presence. Picture one closing scene that gathers the threads. A small clinic logs into Microsoft 365 on a Monday morning. A doctor asks Copilot to summarize last week's cases. Outlook drafts the follow-ups. Excel flags anomalies in lab data. Teams starts a call with a specialist across town. The clinic's app, built years ago and hosted on Azure, scales without anyone thinking about servers. A teenager comes home and plays a new game from a studio that didn't used to be on Xbox. Upstairs, a parent opens LinkedIn and answers a recruiter, then flips to GitHub and reviews a pull request their team's Copilot helped draft. None of them says, "Cloud transformation," out loud. They simply work, and the fabric holds. That is Microsoft's story so far. A company that keeps showing up at the next platform's edge with tools that make it feel practical, then builds an economy around those tools. Its strengths, reach, trust, infrastructure, are the rails. Its weaknesses, complexity, perception, are the guardrails. Its opportunities, AI assistants at work, model choice in the cloud, security at scale, are the open track. Its threats, fast rivals, hard regulators, fickle fashion, are the weather. The strategy is patient. Build the fabric, invite others to stitch, and keep the lights on. If it keeps that promise, useful first, everywhere second, the long arc that began with a basic interpreter in a borrowed office will read, decades from now, like one continuous line, remove friction from the next platform and let the world get back to work. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and press the bell icon.